of the world, I want to talk about one of my favorite LGBT movies of all time. It's called Big Eden. It came out in the year 2000 and it stars Ari Gross. I'm going to go through some major spoilers. If you have not seen this movie, I highly recommend you watching it before you watch my review on it. The movie was written and directed by Thomas Bezucha, which I'm probably mispronouncing his name, so I apologize for that. The movie centers around Henry Hart, who's being played by Ari. He lives in New York and is doing fairly well for himself as being an artist. That is until he gets a call from his friend Grace, who's played by Louise Fletcher, and she tells him that his grandfather just suffered from a stroke. This immediately prompts Henry to leave his town in New York to go back to his hometown in Montana, which happens to be called Big Eden. When he returns back, he not only reconnects with his grandfather, but he also does with the town folks. One of which happens to be his high school crush, Dean Stewart, played by Tim DeKay, who also is returning back to Big Eden after his recent divorce. We have the town gossip, the widow Thatcher, played by Nan Martin. Anna Rudolph is the mayor of the town and also a former classmate of Henry and Dean. But I think my favorite character out of this movie is Pike Dexter, played by Eric Schwig. He owns the local general store, and it's a location where a lot of the town folks hang out. But he's also a love interest for Henry, even though Henry doesn't know this, or he doesn't realize this until the end of the movie. The movie itself is incredibly sweet. It goes in some directions where you just assume that Henry's going to end up being with his high school crush, but then takes a completely different turn for the better. There's a lot of comical aspects being put into this, but I wouldn't really classify it as a comedy. It's much more of a drama comedy, but not really a dramedy, if that makes sense. I don't want to give away everything in this movie, but I do want to point out a few highlights, one of which is the widow Thatcher introducing Henry to women at first, but then once she realizes that he's gay, she changes it up and she introduces him to single males. And there's a point where the town folks know that Pike is crushing on Henry and they help him out as much as they can. The town is so accepting of Henry and Pike's sexuality, and I know that's something that's totally fictitious, but I still enjoyed the idea that this is something that could possibly happen. I legitimately started crying when Henry's grandfather told him that he knew he was gay and that he didn't teach him shame. I mean, that scene just really got me and I started crying like a baby. But the ending is the absolute best. This is the biggest spoiler out of this entire video. I thought that Henry was going to end up being with Dean, but it is such a better movie that he ended up being with Pike instead. Pike showed how much he cared about him throughout the entire thing. And again, I started to cry when I saw that ending. So end result of this movie, was it the best LGBT movie ever made? No, not by a long shot. But it is a great movie nonetheless. It runs approximately about 2 hours long, so it is an investment. But it is a well worth investment and you will be entertained, and the whole positivity alone is something that's worth it. I won't say any more about it. I personally enjoyed the movie and I thought it was done very well. If you're interested in watching it, as of the making of this video, it is on Netflix, so you can check it out there. So that's it for this movie review. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button. Also, subscribe to my channel. Put on the notification bell so you can know when I do future videos. Check out my Patreon site when you get a chance. Check out my social media sites, my websites, and everything else out there. Peace, love, namaste, and I'll see you guys later. Peace. There's so many Lifetime Hallmark movies where someone returns back to their hometown and reconnects with their high school crush and realize that they're in love with each other. I'm glad that this movie did not do that. I mean, they had the whole idea of having the high school crush be in there, but in reality, they moved in separate directions and he found a new love interest instead, which happens to be much better and much more suited to him.